Hello everyone, my name is Mr. Balasaheb Kale. I am from S.V.K.T College, uh, Assistant Professor in Botany Department. So today I discuss the topic name is algae. So algae is very important because when you talk about the basic botany in F5BSc, S5BSc, TYBSc as well as in PG courses, so algae is very important during the study. So here is a recap. So in previous lecture, we discussed about the cryptogamic. There is a introduction part, there is a lower cryptograms, higher cryptograms, and what is their examples. So in today's session, we discuss about the main important parts such as introduction of the algae, characteristic of the algae, and their economic importance. So in today's lecture, we learn about the different objectives. There is a definition of the algae, then their characteristic and their economic importance. So this is the objectives. So in that first point we start, there is a what is algae. So algae is very important. This term introduced by the great scientist Linnaeus in 1753. The orderly systematic study of algae is called as phycology. So phycology is the Greek word and their meaning is the study of the algae. So next point is Smith, GM 1955, he defined the algae in that this is a simple plant with an autotrophic mode of nutrition that is called as a algae. So a simple non-flowering typical aquatic plant, large group of the including seaweeds as well as in the fresh water. There is a majorly algae are found in the water habitat, but some algae are found in the terrestrial condition. But there is a requirement is water is very important because there is a total reproduction is depend on the water contents. Without water, algae cannot survive. So in the during reproduction also the algae is water is requirements. So algae contain the chlorophyll contents. There is a lack of root, stem, and their leaves, and the vascular tissue system is completely absent because there is a lower cryptogamic organism. So next is general characteristic. So when you talk about the algae, is a vast plant organisms found in the cosmopolitan nature. That means they are found in worldwide. So they basically divided into the two parts depend on their cell characteristic. First is the prokaryotic cells and second is the eukaryotic cells. So what is prokaryotic, what is eukaryotic? We discussed that point in cell biology, but on the basis of the algal diversity, so algae is divided into two parts or two characteristics on the basis of their cell characteristic. So first is prokaryotic cell, second is eukaryotic cell. So what is prokaryotic cell? Simply in cell biology, there is a when the cell do not contain the proper nucleus, or we call it as a prominent nucleus, that is called as a prokaryotic cell. What is eukaryotic cell? The eukaryotic cell are they have prominent nucleus. That means there is a, for example, human beings, plants, okay, the higher plants like the flowering plants we call as angiospermic plants, or animals, they have the prominent nucleus. That's why they coming under the eukaryotic. Same in the some algae are also the eukaryotic in nature. So what is their example? We will discuss in coming in few slides. So in the prokaryotic, first is a lac membrane bound organism. This is the characteristic of the prokaryotic cell, and the membrane bound organelles present in eukaryotic cell. So this is the characteristic. Then next point is the single cellular chromosomes. So here is a prokaryotic cell, single cellular chromosome present, but in eukaryotic cells, that is that kind of chromosomes, that kind of the chromosome like circular structure like chromosome absent in the eukaryotic cell. So what kind of the chromosomal structure present? Here is a sister chromatid like structure present in the eukaryotic cells, and that chromatid structure present in the nucleus. That means the nuclear bounded structure. So this is the characteristic of the prokaryotic cell and the eukaryotic cell. So this is the general characteristic of algal members. Next is the what is the other characteristic of the algae? That means the presence of the chlorophyll. So chlorophyll is the major factor because all algae are the autotrophic in nature. So autotrophs, that means the organism, they synthesis their food material selfly or only. So that is called as we call as autotrophic organisms, and the requirement of the food material they synthesis selfly. Next characteristic, they have the autotroph in nature. Okay, so this point we already discussed. So plant body is thalloid. So what is thalloid structure? That so thalloid is a basic characteristic of the lower cryptogams or the higher cryptogams. So what is their meaning? So their meaning is they don't have the prominent root-like structure, stem-like structure, leaf-like structure or flowering-like structure. So that characteristic is completely absent in particular organism or that parts that is called as a thalloid organisms. So thalloid, what is the different characteristic of the thalloid or what is their type? So there is a type is there is a unicellular, multicellular, filamentous, branch, unbranched, colonial, motile or non-motile. So this is the type of the thallus coming in the algal members. So there is some example are here is a Chlamydomonas spirogyra. Okay, so there is a other characteristic is almost all algae are the aquatic. So 99% algae are the aquatic, but some are the terrestrial also. So this that point we already discussed in the previous slides. Okay, so algae are coming under two parts on the basis of their cell characteristic, prokaryotic cell and eukaryotic cell. So some algae are the prokaryotic in nature and some algae are the eukaryotic in nature. So there is a next point is the reproduction. So in the prokaryotic algae, there is a two type of the reproduction observed. First is the vegetative reproduction and second is the asexual reproduction. In the prokaryotic cell, sexual reproduction in absent, majorly absent, but some members have the rarely present, but we say there is a sometime there is a absent. So there is a next point is the vegetative reproduction. So vegetative reproduction also having different types like fragmentation, fusion, formation of the Harmonia, Calorie, Heterosis. Okay, so there is a vegetative reproduction. So what is fragmentation? Fragmentation simply we call as the mother thallus break in the mechanical forces as well as the natural forces. They break down and separate out from the mother plant, and then the separated parts then grow in the favorable condition and they develop the or we call as develop the new thallus structure, that is the fragmentation, or they coming from the fragmentation vegetative reproduction. Next is a fusion. So fusion, that means the one cell get divided and form the two cells, that is the fusion. Formation of the Harmonia. So Harmonia is one of the reproductive parts from the mother cells and they develop the new plants. We call as formation of the Harmonia. This is the vegetative reproduction mode. Then intercalary heterosis. So what is intercalary heterosis? The heterosis like cells are present in the some algae, for example nostoc, anabina. So this blue-green algae having this heterosis like the spatial cells, that cell have their ability to develop the new thallus. So this is the vegetative reproduction mode of the different types observed in the prokaryotic algae. Next is a asexual reproduction. So asexual reproduction also found in the prokaryotic cells. There is a one of the there is a spore formation like zoospore, aplanospore and autospore. So there is a one of the important asexual reproduction in the spore formation, that is the zoospore. So zoospore having their flagella, there is a double flagella, single flagella. So using the flagella they move from one area to the another area. This is the asexual reproduction mode. Next, eukaryotic algae, second type. They have different reproductive modes like sexual reproduction mode, asexual reproduction mode and the vegetative methods. Okay, so sexual, that means they have the different sex organs like isogamous, anisogamous and oogamous. Then asexual, same we already discussed in previous slide. Prokaryotic asexual reproduction, same kind of reproduction happen here in eukaryotic cells. Then vegetative methods, simple, we already discussed in prokaryotic cells. Then lack of vascular tissue system. So what is vascular tissue system? The tissue transport the food material from one position to the another position, or minerals or water transfer from one position to the another position using different complex tissue system. For example, vascular bundle. So vascular bundle is one of the characteristic of the vascular tissue. So that kind of the cell or tissue system is completely absent in the algal system. So that's why here is a lack of vascular tissue system. Then reserved food material. So different algae having different reserved food material, but one of the major reserved food material is the starch. So what is starch? Starch is the polycarbohydrates natures and this reserved in the vacuoles on their body, and that starch used in the unfavorable condition for as a energy material. Then some common example in algal group like Spirogyra, Chlamydomonas, Chlorella, Nostoc, Cara, Sargassum and Batrachospermum. So here is some members are the freshwater and some members are the marine waters. Then there is a last point in today's topic, that is the economic importance. So there is a different economic importance in the different algae. So first is the food chain. So food chain, that means there is a, this is the ecological points. So there is a different members depend to each other for food material or surviving purpose. So algae is a major food chain observed in fishes, freshwater species as well as the marine water fishes. Second economical importance is the fish culture. So fish culture is one of the economical importance of the algae. Then swatch treatments is one of the economical importance of some example like Chlamydomonas, Senedesmus, Chlorella and Euglena. Okay, so there is a third economical importance in algae. Then next is the food. So food is also one of the important as an economical point of in Japan, especially in the Japan country or in Chinese country, algae used as a food. Okay, there is a daily meal as a energy purpose. For example, Chlorella is one of the algae that Japanese people use that algae as a food material as daily meal. Okay, then this is the food economical importance. Then another example is the laminaria. So laminaria also use Japanese people as a food resource or source. Okay, then fodder. So fodder, that means that is the food material for the cattle or animals. Okay, so there is some example like Rhodamania and Alaria. So there is a two algae majorly use of the food for goats, cows and sheep. The next economical important is fertilizer. So fertilizer is also very important economical importance in the different farms. Why there is fertilizer? Because some algae having different components like nitrogen fixing bacteria. Okay, some bacteria we call as anabiana or nostoc. So there is a two bacteria, or we call it as a cyanobacteria, or we call it as a blue-green algae. So this is a different synonym of the cyanobacteria, or we call it as a blue-green algae, or we call it as that bacteria or that blue-green algae used as a fertilizer in farm. Then medicine. So medicine is also very important point as an economical point of view. Chlorella. Okay, so Chlorella algae is unicellular algae majorly, that algae used as antibiotic in the medicine field. Then Sargassum, Laminaria. Okay, so that two algae, Sargassum and Laminaria. So both algae are the marine algae, especially they are found in the marine environment, and that algae used as a goiter disease treatment. Okay, so goiter disease, why they are caused the goiter disease? Because there is a different components, scarcity of the component in the body. That's why they call the goiter. Okay, so that treatment purpose Sargassum or Laminaria use. Then agar. So agar is one of the agar powder, we call it as agar powder, used in the different laboratory. For example, microbiology laboratory, then biotechnology laboratory, life sciences laboratory, botany laboratory, zoology. So we call it the biological sciences used as agar powder for there is a practical purpose or the research purpose. So there is a agar gel electrophoresis. Agar gel electrophoresis is one of the technique. In that there is a prepare the gel bed, and that bed prepared using Gelidium or Gracilaria algae. Okay, there is a Gelidium and Gracilaria, both algae are the marine algae. They are harvested and they dried in the sun condition or the shade condition. They prepare the powder. Okay, and that powder used as a prepare for the gel bed, and that gel bed used as for separating the different nitrogen components like the DNA or RNA. So this is the separation technique of the we call as a agar gel electrophoresis, and that agar come from the algae. There is a Gelidium algae or Gracilaria algae. Then there is another economically important is the vitamins. So vitamins is also very important because there is a daily routine of the human per human. There is a eat the daily meals, and in the meal there is a vitamins required for their regulation purpose or energy purpose. There is some vitamins A, B, E. Okay, these vitamins are coming from the algae. Then next economically important is the ornamental uses. So Botridium and Spirogyra. So both algae use as a ornamental purpose, okay, or we call it as a showy purpose, because there is a thalloid structure is very attractive. So and they use for the ornamental purposes. Then manufacture of the potash, for example, macrocystis and neurocystis. So both algae use as for the manufacture of the potash. Then next is a manufacture of the iodine. So iodine also very important. We study in the previous slide, for example, in the medicine in the goiter. So goiter, why cause the goiter? Because of the iodine deficiency or excess amount of the iodine. That's why they cause the goiter disease. So we use that to algae to treatment of the goiter disease. Here is the manufacture of the iodine. Then today's session of assignments. So there is a three questions total. First is the what are the algae? Okay. Then second question is the write any two general characteristic of the algae. Then third question, give the economical importance of the algae. So there is a student assignments. Okay, summary. Though there is a today's session summary, we discuss what is algae. There is a definition of the algae. Then general characteristic of the algae using different examples, and today's session we discuss economically importance of the algae using different examples. Okay, a recap. In the next session, we will discuss term meaning of the bryophytes. So what is the bryophyte? What their position in the when you classify the plant system, then where they stand. So that point we will discuss in next lecture. Then general characteristic of the bryophytes. So there is a same. Today we discuss algal general characteristic, same kind of the characteristic also in bryophytes. So that's kind of the characteristic we will discuss in next session. Then last point is economically important of the algae. So there is a bryophyte also one of the cryptogamic organisms. So they have also some economically importance, like that characteristic we will discuss in next lecture. So thanks for